I'm gonna get to it, but this first poem is dedicated to my mother. I call it Sunday Dinner. My mother cooked dinner every Sunday. And I remember just like yesterday, coming in to hear her humming hymns and asking if we wanted a plate. Make no mistake, even though we were allowed to self-serve, it was her selfless ways, and because of her faith, she allowed herself to serve. And so she would serve. That's how she made sure that every plate got filled. So I wouldn't leave the table until I ate my fill, because there was more than enough. Plus the aroma from the food always filled the room up. And I could tell by the smell coming from the pots what she stirred inside. So it was worth the wait when my stomach was in knots, like something stirring inside every Sunday. As soon as she came home from church. But she wouldn't rest until the table was blessed. You see, she gave the Lord praise first. But now a search for what was lost to me. Because it was more than just a meal. It was her dressing, dressed in blessings. And I feel the presence still. And when she bowed and said grace, it was by grace, I'm convinced. That's why my mother died on a Sunday. We haven't had a Sunday dinner since. So I now have to do one for my dad. It didn't seem like so many years ago when me and my brother would race downstairs to watch our favorite superhero. Up early Saturday morning, pajamas still on, King Vitamin cereal pouring because that's all they could afford then. And I remember being fascinated by a certain character who could scale tall buildings and capture villains. But I wasn't aware then. Now it pales in comparison to a man who can raise children. And as a matter of fact, he would put us all on his back and carry the whole house. I was too young, so I couldn't see it until now. Because while sitting on that floor Indian style, the only thing I ever wanted on my back was a big towel. Because with great power comes great responsibility. Pops would always respond according to his ability. But what's funny was that he never seemed to be possessed by anything radioactive then. But on Sunday, when the radio was active, I can tell that he was possessed by the way he'd react to hymns. You see, he'd give praise. Although none of his powers came from the sun's rays, they came from a belief that the sun was raised and he had grace. You can tell by the way his sons were raised. I must say, even though he had the ability to see my mistakes from days away, he was just dad. And I was looking for someone draped in the cape to save the day. Besides, he couldn't even fly. But when he changed into his suit and tie, he became the apple of my mom's eye, and I can't lie, he was fly. But as time went by, I grew to understand that Superman wasn't truly a Superman, just a man in a suit who without a suit, I assume, was only a man. That they brand him the Man of Steel. Well, my dad never had to save the earth to prove his worth, yet he was a man. Still. And no secret identity could keep him from identifying his sole purpose to provide, and we were never denied because he recognized his role. Because a true hero always shows up just in the nick of time, and I admit that mine wasn't a master venture bringing justice. He was dad, and he gladly gave all that he had because it was just us. Plus, he'd move at the speed of light to make sure that we never knew a dark night. And this, even though this was the norm, I still marveled at the way that this Iron Man would protect us from the storm. But what I didn't know was that there ever be a time when I wouldn't look up to the sky for a savior, but instead look up to a guy that I favored. But if he could have passed down his traits like he passed down his face, then maybe I would have had the strength to hold my family together. But I tried. Because it was instilled inside your will to fight for my home. But Dad, I'm your son. So why can't I shine on my own? I don't have your strength. I'm certain. That's why I'm being crushed under the weight of these burdens. But if I had the ability to go back in time, I'd try. And I'd fly. I'd fly back to 2016 as fast as the jet to save you, and I'd press, impress on your chest until you came to, Dad. Don't die. Please don't die. But he took his last breath while I was begging him to stay, and was up, and away.